Hey everyone, welcome to the Vienna Whyte Roundtable Season 1, Episode 2. No, this would be Episode 3, I think. I'm losing track already. I'm your host, Millie Rouge, and today we have 3 incredible guests. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and just make sure to say a big hi, hello, so that the camera will pick up on your screen and let you talk. So, Emily, if you want to go first.
Hey, hi. My name's Emily Levine. I'm 17 and I'm a singer-songwriter. Yeah.
Okay, Pablo.
Nice. I'm Pablo Montano. I'm turning 24 in just a little bit. I'm a singer-songwriter as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. And Josh.
I am Josh Sahunta. I'm 25, singer-songwriter, producer. Yep.
That's me. Beautiful. Well, I'm really excited, guys. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got some really diverse levels of musicianship here, which I really, really like because it's always more interesting when people have different levels of experience. And I think even from someone, you guys can really learn from each other, even if, you're 17 like Emily or you're a producer like Josh, you really can learn a lot about one another just from these conversations. So I kind of already went through the process of today, how it works, and you guys kind of get the stitch of everything. But again, please feel free to kind of insert yourself wherever you feel possible, and don't feel like you have to shorten your responses at all. Take your time, because I want to hear from you guys about what you have to say. So today's topic is what we're going to talk about. Is pros and cons of being a musician. So it seems like it's a very basic category, but I do have some specific questions I want to kind of go with you guys and hear from your experiences about what you think. And I guess, yeah, you guys kind of all did your introductions about yourself, so we will just jump right into the questions then. So obviously with being a musician, there is a lot of pros and cons. Just a sec here. Make sure my Wi-Fi is off. Okay. So there's a lot of pros and cons. Sometimes I think people can feel like the cons overweigh the pros for being a musician. But I know musicians usually don't do it for the financial gain, or usually it's more about the passion of the project. So I'm really curious to kind of hear your guys' opinions about and maybe any financial risks that you've taken in your music career, and kind of any experiences you guys had with that, whether it was a positive experience or a negative experience. And if you didn't have any, then that's okay. I just kind of want to get some feedback from you guys. So whoever wants to start first, jump right in.
I guess I'll start with this. I think there's a lot of pros and cons with it. Pros, it's an amazing time. It's an amazing community to be in. Being a musician, music writer, producer like Josh, it's an amazing experience, and you get to open a lot more doors than you expect. Plus, it itself, music is an amazing passion. But a lot of the cons that I've felt and I've seen include, you have to invest more money than at times you will receive back, whether it's an instrument, traveling, renting space, and also there's times like right now, for example, with the virus and all that you're not going to be able to do much. Most places are closed right now, so there's no gigs. So there's not much money coming in. And even then, at times you just need to group up with people. If you have a band, for example, playing on your own is at times not the best.
Totally. And I think almost it can be good and bad to be on your own, because then you make more of the profit on your own. Because when you're with a band, usually some bands split it right down the middle, or they have certain percentages. But this is interesting because you guys are actually all solo musicians, unless you, I guess, hire on session players. Josh, I know for a while you were a full-time musician, and that was kind of your main aspect. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and your experience with that?
Yeah. I think at a point it got to this place where I was I was traveling so often that it didn't make sense to have another job, because I had to keep taking time off. And so I went to school for psychology, and I got a degree, and literally went right into the work field with the school board. And so I worked like your typical 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, typical school hours. And every single opportunity that I had to go and like play a show in a different city or do a tour or something like that, it was a bit of a process to get the time off. And these opportunities started happening more often than not. And so like even, for example, in like 2018, I think I was in Edmonton consistently for maybe like top 3 months.
Wow,
And then like
that's
I was,
crazy.
yeah, because like I did like a Western Canada tour, and then I did um like a UK tour, and then I did a showcase in New York, and then I did like, there was all this stuff happening really quickly. And so it was just like, it was impossible to be able to have the flexibility at a, you know, like a regular hourly place of work. But then like this year, even before the whole COVID thing, and even, sorry, like last year, I guess, things kind of slowed down in the sense that I wasn't traveling as frequently. And I kind of just said, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just, because I have like waiting experience, because I was a waiter all the way through university. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just like find a chill part-time waiting job that I can do when I'm here. And then
Mm.
like when I need to be gone, there's no issue because it's a part-time waiting job. Um, so the place where I got a job, like they were super chill with um the amount of hours I could do, and like if I needed to be gone for like a month or something, they were totally fine with it. And then when I'm here, I actually like have consistent work as well. So it's kind of all about balance. Like I never, you know, like it was kind of cool to say like I was a full-time musician, but at the same time, I think a lot of people jump too quickly to be a full-time musician when it's not really feasible.
Yeah.
And there's definitely this kind of clout associated with it of being able to say you're a full-time musician, but I quickly realized that like it's not all that it's cut out to be. Like if you're a full-time anything, like you need to be treating it like it's a full-time job. And unless you have enough things happening in which you can put that amount of time in that's actually generating revenue, it's not really like, it's not really worth it. Which is why I'm like, now I will work any odd job when I'm in town, and like I don't see an issue with that. And I think there's a stigma for like musicians to like not, or like to be doing other jobs and stuff, and I think that's just like not true.
Yeah,
I think
I totally agree. Yeah, because I find it's really difficult to be a full-time musician and then to also support like recording and paying for really expensive products or like gear or
yeah,
anything like that. And I think
totally.
just having that part-time side time hustle, whatever it is, can just help you to move faster, right? Because if you're kind of relying on your like part-time thing or even like your full-time musicianship, sorry, it can be difficult to move quicker than you want, right?
Right.
So
And even like, just an example, and then I'll shut up, but like um when I went to New York, like I showcased at a festival called Mondo, and there was a lot of artists there. They were like New York based artists who were like signed to major labels. Like I met someone who was like signed to Universal, and like just like one of the biggest labels in the world, and like doing an album with Universal and like all this stuff. And they had like 100,000 Instagram followers, and they were verified and all this fancy stuff, but they were working part-time as well. And then
yeah.
that to me was like, wow, like this is, you know, it's like it's not you're not an anomaly if you have to work a part-time job while you're trying to do music. Even if you're signed to a major label, it's like, it's pretty common actually.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of artists, when they talk about their like coming up story, a
Yeah,
lot of them have said like, I had 3 jobs before I got to this point of like, I can
totally.
be a full-time celebrity or whatnot.
Yeah,
Like, so I think yeah, I totally think there's a stigma around it that it's like an ideal thing to do, but it's really difficult.
yeah,
It's really,
no,
really difficult. Pablo, I was actually curious because I know I've seen you actually a few times as a busker. And I kind of want to talk about like the financial benefits of busking. Do you find that it is worth your while per se to busk kind of in different locations like around the city?
I have to say, yeah, it's actually really interesting. Depends on where you're busking as well. You will make a different amount of money, but if you're looking for like some change in your pocket or a pretty decent amount of money. Busking is not a bad idea for a musician, not only for the money itself, but for the experience you get of playing in front of people. But it does help afford a couple things. Like one of my instruments, I paid it off by busking for like a whole month, twice a week.
Ooh,
Because at times people are really generous. Again, you got to pick your spots. That definitely affects who's nice to you. But it's got its pros of making some pocket change that helps out in the long run.
totally. And Emily, I'm curious because you're kind of in your like beginner phase of music career, I guess, per se. Have you really faced any financial kind of like gains or maybe failures as of yet? Or are you still kind of like coasting
Um,
along doing okay?
Not really. I mean, I never really, at my age, it wasn't for the financial reasons. I've done music all my life, and I love it, and I love performing, and it's just mostly about that. I've busked a few times, and it was really fun, but it's a little hard in Edmonton sometimes because it's really cold most of the time.
Yep.
So there's that.
Pablo's like, yep, I feel that.
Yeah.
It's not a fun life. No, that's
Yeah.
really cool. And I think that's really wholesome actually just to hear from someone who's like kind of at the beginner stage, because it's like, I just do it for the passion. And then there's some people that like, they've been doing it for a few years and they're starting to get kind of like, I don't want to say jaded, but like at some points you kind of feel like, okay, is this really worth my while? So it's very wholesome to hear that. I wanted to kind of ask you guys a separate question. Have you ever found that your personality or kind of who you are as a person suffered because of the music or the work that you put into the music? You know, it's kind of like a deep question, but have you ever found that it's affected and another follow-up question I had is like any anxiety, has it ever played a crucial part in your career or anything else?
That's a really good question. I don't know if it's affected my personality a bit, though it's like affected the way I think of music and as a career itself. It's definitely affected the way I approach music itself, writing and performing. But luckily, no anxieties nor changing the way I am. At times, I even thought I should have like my own persona when I'm performing compared to like my regular personality. But besides that, I think I've been able to keep it under control and not let any anxiety. Though, I mean, every time you perform, you're kind of anxious, and also like with what you're doing here, you get anxious. Are enough people like seeing my videos? Are enough people learning about me so that I can promote myself more?
Right.
But yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I really like that you brought up like the persona part too, like having two different like identities almost, because like my actual first name is Michelle, but a lot of people just call me Millie. So I feel like at times I have this like Hannah Montana personality where I'm like, I like flip my hair around. I'm like, yeah, I'm Millie. And and there's another part to obviously owning a company too. So I have this like side of my musicianship, but then I also have this like business aspect. So I think I totally relate to that, because
Yeah.
at times I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm the same person, even though I have these different names, but it just helps to make it a little bit less confusing. Well, I hope it's less confusing for people, but to distinguish between my musicianship and then just my regular human being person. But but do you guys have anything else you want to add on that, or you guys good?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, along with anxiety, I mean, I've been doing this for a few years now, but I'm definitely like on the younger side of this. I think like the more that you do it, the less anxiety you have about it, and the more you just like have your supporters and the people that love you and your music, then you know that it's going to be okay. And like I think the most anxiety that I ever had when I was performing was when I first started writing music and performing it, because it's so scary, like thinking these are all the things that were inside my head. Is this even good? Like
It's
that
very
kind of
raw. It's like almost like you're reading your journal out to an audience, being
stuff.
like, do you like it?
Yeah.
That's how I feel, at least. How about you, Josh?
Honestly, it's weird because I feel like my pursuits as a musician are so completely counterintuitive to like the type of person I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm pretty introverted, and like I don't like being the center of attention. Like if I'm just like at an event or something, or like just even in a group of friends, like I'm always typically like like in the background kind of, and I kind of like that. Like I don't like being, you know,
Yeah.
the center of things. So it's kind of weird like thinking that like my job is to like be on stage and be the center of attention. And
Totally.
so that's just like, it just feels weird. But it's like at the same time I love it, in the sense that like it's almost like I have to separate myself as a person from myself as a artist, and I'm still working on like how to do that. But I think the other thing is just like I have this like really intense love-hate relationship with social media, just because like I know that it's necessary, and obviously like it's instant information and it's instant access to anybody in the world, and like I would not have been able to have any of the opportunities I've had if it had not been for social media. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
that being said, I think you have to find like this balance to which it's healthy, because I've definitely I've hit like the wall with it in some cases where it's like, okay, this is actually like damaging
Yeah.
my like mental health right now, because you're just like constantly seeing like if you have a down season, like say like you don't have any gigs or you don't have a tour coming up, and then you're just seeing everybody else doing cool things, or like, oh, like my newest song wasn't added to like a Spotify playlist, but like everybody else's song was.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a toxic trap, and it makes you just feel unnecessarily bad about yourself, when
You
in
don't need
reality there's so many factors that go into these things. So like, I don't know, I go through phases where I just completely delete Instagram off my phone,
Yeah, me too.
um because
Definitely me too.
yeah, and then I'll just download it when I need to post something, or when I'm expecting like literally like I deleted it for a couple days and then only downloaded it so that I could find out when we were doing this call.
Right. I love that. That's
But
amazing.
like I do that quite often because it's so easy to just let it get to you, and especially when you're sitting at home during quarantine and you have nothing really
Oh,
to
yeah.
do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're like, yo, like everybody's releasing music, everybody's doing live streaming, and you're just like, you almost don't want to do it because you're like, what if it's not as good as everybody else's?
Yeah.
And then you just don't do it, and it's
Yeah.
just stupid. You kind of just have to get out of your head and just
Yeah.
like do it, I
I
guess.
really like actually on your social media how like Josh's social media specifically, how open and honest he is. It's actually like something I really appreciate when I see your posts and you have this like long paragraph. I'm always like, oh yeah, like lay it on me, Josh. I'm ready to hear it because it's so honest. And I just think like a lot of people miss that honesty factor, and it's a lot of BS in my opinion. But and I totally agree with you. Like the comparison is real, and like even not on music stuff, it can be in your personal life too. Like everyone, of course, they're always posting the highlight reels, and there's very few times where you see the more raw and open things to people. So I'm curious about you, Emily and Pablo. Have you kind of experienced, because I know I do the same thing with I will physically, like Josh said, delete my app because it drives me nuts. But maybe more specific and broad, do you guys find that you ever have that kind of social media like negativity through
Oh
either
yeah.
music or personal?
It's always like, I think Instagram is a lot about comparing. It's a lot of comparing. You see everyone else's accounts. You're thinking like, is my account worse? Like, and then I've never deleted the app, but I feel like I get kind of obsessed sometimes where I'll like post something and I'll like check on it like every 2 seconds to make sure it's doing okay and like people are enjoying it. Cause like, yeah, it's scary sometimes.
Totally. As if it matters, but to us, I don't know why it does, but it just does.
Yeah.
How about you, Pablo?
Oh, definitely. Just like Josh, you see people on the app posting their music, getting gigs and all that, and then getting hundreds of likes, and then there's you posting an honest, hey, I'm writing a song, here's what I have, being just simple. And you start looking like, why aren't people liking my information, my post, all this? You start comparing yourself to others. Like Emily said, Instagram is more about comparing yourself to others. So you start feeling pressures on how other people are doing better than you, and then you feel the pressure that you have to do more yourself, and it just gets to be a lot, right?
Totally. Now this question, I guess we kind of briefly touched over it already, but what do you guys think is your idea of a well-balanced music career? Like, so what does that look like in your eyes? Because I know in everyone's eyes that can look different. I'm curious to hear your guys' different opinions of what you consider to be a well-balanced musical career.
I think, like Josh said, being able to have a job on the side and being able to, hey, I have this show, I have to not show up this day to work, and being able to do that, being able to balance both sides. And if you need to take some days off for music or vice versa, that you can do that and still have some stable income so that you can enjoy the best of both worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And Emily, because you're kind of, I guess you haven't really freshly set off into that like
Yeah.
after school kind of music career. What do you think your ideal life would look like if you could have it best of both worlds kind of balanced?
Yeah, I mean, I think like with income, it's important that you still have something so you're stable, but I think as long as you're always like doing music and you're always doing what you love, I think like if you have that balance, like that would be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I know a lot of musicians, and I know Josh could probably speak on this too, like they access a lot of grants that don't require them to physically use their own personal like
Mhm.
fundings or savings. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about grants, Josh, and kind of how they've helped you with your career.
Sure. Yeah. I think like, I mean, for in terms of the places that I've done music before, Canada is kind of exclusive in the sense that we do have access to grants. Like when I toured in England, um, they had never even heard of like the government giving you money to do music. And even just in the States, like that's just like they all know that we get grants and they're all very like envious about it. And because I know that a lot of like Canadian musicians and they're like, oh, I wish I was like an American citizen. But then in America, they're all like, I wish I was a Canadian citizen because you guys get grants and like we have nothing like that there. And so, yeah, like grants are amazing. And most of the things that I've been able to do have been because of grant funding. And honestly, like it's very much about like, um, the vision that you have for your project and you kind of have to be realistic because you can't say that like this music video is going to end world hunger, like you know, like you can't say stuff like that, but you can say like I'm going to use this project in partnership with this organization that is going to help bring awareness and that have already agreed to bring awareness and like blah blah blah. Like you just have to like do all the groundwork and then you just take that to the granting organization and say, look, this is what I've done, this is what I've put together, now I just need this kind of capital to make it happen. And then you're way more likely to be given that kind of funding. And
Mm-hmm.
like I've always found that the easiest grants to get are the showcase and travel grants. I've never not gotten a showcase or travel grant, because pretty much if you can show proof that you were given a showcase, and that can literally just be a screenshot of the email that says, congratulations, we'd love to have you play at Breakout West or something. And you send that to the grantor, they're going to be like, okay, you're legit, like you actually got a showcase.
Yeah.
Here's money. So
That's
like
awesome.
I every single time I do a showcase, every single time, like I'm playing at Canadian Music Week. It was supposed to be in May and now they moved it to like September, I think.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not holding out hope that it'll be fine by September, but we'll see.
Yeah, we never know.
Yeah. But even that, like I just screenshotted that I got a showcase and sent it and like applied for the grant, and then like within 3 weeks I got accepted.
That's
So it's
really
like,
cool.
but it's like it's not exclusive to me. Like they're like literally anybody can get those grants as
Mm-hmm.
long as you
Apply.
get the showcase kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I got a showcase to do a tour, like the UK tour that I did. That was a little bit more tricky because it wasn't like I was playing a showcase or a accredited festival or anything like that. But I basically took like news clippings of like all the shows that I did book and then like all the promotion around it that I was going to do, and like all the stuff that I was going to accomplish while in the UK. And like I had to work a little bit harder to make that one a compelling reason, so that they didn't just think that I was going to go on vacation.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like that one still was successful, but it kind of just depends. Like you kind of build a track record with these organizations,
Mm-hmm.
and if they know that like, okay, this person's actually doing something with the money we're giving them, you're way more likely to get further grants in the future.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that advice. And I think for Pablo and Emily and even myself, like that's really valuable knowledge. I really appreciate that. And
Oh,
that's good for
definitely.
me. Now I'm gonna know where to apply. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
no,
good to
that's
go.
amazing information to have. I didn't know, especially about the grants. I didn't know they were that wide open. So that's
Mm-hmm.
actually
Me
amazing
either.
information for us. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you guys give to someone who's maybe unsure of if music is the best path for them? They're kind of just thinking about maybe like, should I learn an instrument? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think that if it's something that you're super passionate about and something that like, I don't know, feeds your soul, then you should give it a try. Like for me, it's an escape. It's like something that I've always just been drawn to, and it's like it's a whole different thing for me, and it's so
Mhm.
special. And it's like I can't imagine myself like not being involved in music.
Totally. I feel that
Yeah.
way too, actually. I feel like I can't imagine myself being like a dental hygienist. Like I cannot process that as my life. And my dad wants me to be that so badly, but I cannot process that as my life. So I totally get that. What about you, Pablo?
I think the first thing I would tell anyone is don't give up after trying one instrument. I tried to learn piano. That was my first instrument, and it went south. But then I tried
Me
other
too.
instruments. Right? It just wasn't for me. But then I tried other instruments, and then it definitely worked.
Yeah.
So first, I'd say if the first instrument doesn't work, just try a different one. And then for anyone who wants to try and begin performing, the best tip that I give people is to just start busking. Do it in the corner, busk. If you feel comfortable with it, with people hearing you sing or
Mm-hmm.
play, then you can start considering like doing more than just that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
And I
just keep
agree.
going.
Yeah. Piano is a really hard instrument to learn. So I would totally give that advice too, because you have to be super, super like motivated to get that done.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? What advice would you give?
How thorough can I be?
Totally thorough.
Okay, because I love this question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so entirely dependent on how creative and versatile you can be, because I think the common misconception and the common problem that I see with like people who make the jump to being a musician and a full-time musician or whatever that entails
Mm-hmm.
is that they just look at it as being one avenue. They think, okay, I'm going to release music and I'm going to play shows and that's it. And like that's the dream, right? Because like that's my dream. That's what I would like. I would like to get to the point where I can just play shows and tour and release music and then just have my entire income based on that.
Yeah.
But like I had to quickly learn that like you can totally have a career in music, but it's so dependent on like where you're gonna be tapping into. So for example, I'll give some examples of like what I've done. Like I teach music. um I have done uh I've had like music used in like, well, this is not this is hasn't happened yet, but I've gotten the contract signed and it's about to happen. But like I have some songs that are going to be put in Netflix shows.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
amazing.
Congrats.
thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thanks. um and then like obviously gigs, and then what else? There's lots more. Just bear with me. Okay, so I also like I've produced music for other artists. I've been a session player for other artists. I've um had like composed and produced like little jingles that have been used in like indie video games.
Mm.
um like I've done Skype lessons with people. I've done like music business like consultations with people. Like there's just been like people that like wanted to just like pick my brain for an hour, and like stuff like that. And then like there's so many different ways you can make money, like Pablo said, like busking. You know, there's endless opportunities, especially like in a place like Edmonton. As big of a city as it is, it's not big at all when you consider the Torontos and New Yorks,
The LA.
LA.
Totally.
There's so much less competition here.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Martin Kerr, he's like his wife is a lawyer and he makes more money than she does.
No way.
And he's a full-time musician.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know
That's
that.
insane.
Yeah, and like
Wow.
and like he started by busking and he played at farmers markets and he was pulling in like major cash at those things. And like then he went from that and he took his fans that he made through that, and then he was like selling out the Windspear. And now he's trying to do the Jubilee Auditorium.
Wow.
And so like, but he's just been really, creative with how he's generated this kind of income. And there's so many different avenues. Like some people, like another example would be, this is something I did for a while and it was really helpful, is like I just contacted a bunch of YouTubers and basically gave them like a bunch of my music and said, hey, you guys need royalty-free music you can use in your videos. Like if you like any of my stuff, feel free to use it, just give me credit. But then like obviously if you're with like CD Baby or DistroKid or whatever, like they'll collect that money for you basically. So it's like if you're on 100 different people's YouTube videos, it's like you're getting money for that, and YouTube pays you pretty decently, all things considered. So yeah, I think my advice would be, don't just limit yourself to one thing. If you're really good at an instrument, then do lessons, like guitar lessons. If you can get like enough students, like you can make bank from that. Like, and it's usually like you get paid cash. So it's like non-tax deductible. It's like, it's just like, it's such an easy way to make money. And it's the time commitment to that is so small.
Totally. Yeah.
That like
not very long.
Exactly. Like let's say you teach like 5 lessons a week. That's like 5 hours a week. And you're probably making more than a lot of people make in like a day's worth of work.
Yeah. Like a retail job or something.
Exactly. And then you have X amount of hours to do every single other thing, right? So it's just like being efficient with your time, because like obviously time is more valuable than money. And if you have a lot of time, that's a lot of potential money you could have if you use that time wisely.
Exactly, yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, where can I maximize my time? I think, I don't know, for me, I think one of the advantages that I had is like I never really got into like, this is gonna sound so stupid, but like I never really like, there's not like a TV show or any TV series that I've ever been like, oh my gosh, like I need to watch all of this. So I don't spend a lot of time watching TV. And so like 90% of my day is doing things related to music. And I think that's why, I think that maybe has been what separated me from a lot of people who have this frustration, is that like I'm always thinking of like how I can monetize music and like things I could be doing, instead of like crushing 8 seasons of whatever. But again, it's completely dependent on like everybody's capacity. So
I actually really love that you mentioned that, because like Josh is just spewing out advice that he would normally be charging for. So like I so appreciate that you're taking the time to like inform all of us right now. It's really awesome. Josh and I have actually like worked together on a song, and I know Josh has like consulted with a couple of my friends, like musician friends. And I really like that idea, because it's really good to think outside the box. It can be difficult if you don't kind of have that mindset. Like myself, for example, I'm not totally I can't think that way as creatively and outwardly as kind of you do, Josh, but I have someone in my life. He's also the owner of Yeg Music, and he's like working as my manager for Vienna Whyte. And he's so like that. Like, this is the whole reason I'm on this roundtable talk right now. We're doing the live stream, is because he's always constantly thinking of ways that we can put ourselves just anywhere, right? Like, and most of the times it won't be for financial gain, but those things eventually, if you have the momentum to keep going with them, you really can eventually get to that point with like YouTube, for example. Like, that's something that's so simple to do. All you have to do is email people. Like, YouTubers are desperate for royalty-free music because YouTube is such a hard ass about it. So I know, like, just even that for advice is like, that's amazing, because I know that you really just have to expand yourself, like you said. So I really appreciate that you said that. So I just want to have one more question, and then we'll wrap everything up here. And this is just kind of like a fun question. It's not really as serious. I appreciate so much you guys being here and providing like all of your feedback and advice. It's been really awesome. If you guys are ever interested in coming back on the show, I'd love to have you guys back on. So just let me know if you guys are interested. We're going to move on to our last question, and then we're going to wrap up and say goodbye here. If you weren't a musician and you didn't want to pursue music at all, where do you think life would have taken you instead? Whoever wants to go first, jump right into it.
That's a tough one, because for now, at least, I think I want to balance a career and music, but I also see music as secondary, as like a hobby. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm in university, with like doing a political science degree. So if music doesn't really spring up that much for me in the future, or for some other reason music doesn't work for me, I want to rely back on that degree. Mm-hmm. But I have the dreams that I can do more with music, get more popularity, play more shows, have more fun with it. But if for some reason that doesn't work, I guess I will rely on my degree and totally see where that takes me. I would definitely love to work for the city. Love the public sector, so hopefully that. But fingers crossed, I don't have to go there yet. I can do something with music and continue, because I'm hoping it grows more and more.
Totally. Or that you have a good happy balance, kind of like Josh said, between the two. That would be
ideal. Exactly. That's the ideal goal, have that both balanced together and play with both of them.
Perfect. What about you, Josh? Where do you think life would have taken you if music wasn't the primary one?
I probably would have just continued with the psychology thing. Like, I probably would be like a counselor or a psychologist of some sort.
Yeah.
Like, I did enjoy that, and I did like, even when I worked in that field after, it was like I could see myself doing it. It just was really mentally draining, and like it was hard to come home from that and then try to write songs, because it's like you're dealing with heavy emotions all day, and then you have to come home and like write a song that has to do with heavy emotions. It's like you just want to like cry yourself to sleep every night if you do that, right? So it's kind of like so if I didn't do music, then I feel like I'd have more of a capacity to do that kind of stuff.
Totally.
So that's probably what I would do.
Yeah. And how about you, Emily?
I mean, me being in high school, I don't really know very much yet, but I honestly, it's hard for me to think about doing other things than music. Like, it's really difficult for me to think about even being so young, just because I've been doing music since I was 5, and it's like the only thing I've been interested in. Like, I've tried a lot of other things, and it just like nothing is as big in my life as music is for me. I think I also think psychology is really interesting, and I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, so I'd probably go that route if I was to do something other than music. But
yeah, no, that's really cool.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I could totally see you kind of tapping into like the music therapy world. Because it's kind of the best of both worlds in a sense. Like, you're dealing with a lot of that, and I know there's some really good programs like in Canada and like Vancouver and stuff, so you should look into it if you're interested.
Okay, sounds
good. I have some friends that did it, and they really enjoyed it, so if you kind of want both worlds. But I'm just going to sign off here, and thank you guys again so much for being a part of this. This is actually a lot of fun, and it's great to see your faces, because I don't know when the next time I'll see your actual faces for a while. I'll let you guys all say your goodbyes, and then we're out for the day.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's really fun, and I hope to do it again soon.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for having me around. That was actually a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do this again.
Totally.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. So best of luck to everybody in this
Beautiful.
Safe, guys.
time.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.